Good morning, happy Monday, everybody. I am Jeff Blankenburg, but you might know that because you're here on my channel on Twitch. And today we are here, hopefully, to finalize what has been a project we've been working on for quite a while, which is a Star Wars databank. And so, for those of you that haven't tuned in before, I may have some new people I've been promoting. The fact that this is going on quite a bit. If you're just joining us for the first time, a Star Wars databank is meant to be a Alexa skill that allows you to ask about just about anything you could imagine. So if you want to know about a specific character or droid or vehicle or weapon or planet or city or location or anything, all of that stuff, all the data is there and included, and you can ask about it. And if you don't know what to ask for, or you want to learn something new about the show or the movies, you can say, hey, give me something from The Mandalorian, or give me something from Episode 5. And it's a very easy way for you to be able to learn more about the show and learn maybe some of the characters you didn't know the names of, or what the name of a planet or a city is that may have only been mentioned in passing as you were watching the movies. So that's kind of the goal of what's going on with this skill. And so I'm going to give a quick demo. I like to just share kind of how the skill works and give you a feel for what it does. Karthik is here. Thank you, Karthik, for joining. Welcome. Beauty Bubble now. I haven't met you before, but thank you for joining. I'm glad you're here. Hopefully you found your seat. If you have any questions or anything as we go, please feel free to add them to the chat. I would love to interact and answer your questions. That's some of the most fun for me, and it also helps me learn. My philosophy in life is if you can teach it, you know it, and so it's good to have you guys ask me questions, because if I can't teach it, then clearly I don't know it, and I need to invest more time in it. So that's a good thing to have in my belt as well. So let's give a quick demo of the skill. I'll just walk through a couple of scenarios for you, and then we can talk about how this stuff was built and what the architecture is and all that. So Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars databank. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars databank. There we go.
Welcome. Ask me about anything in the Star Wars universe.
Give me something from Episode 6.
I have chosen a species for you. Weequays have rough, wrinkled skin, often in a brown hue, who wear their hair in a topknot. Hondo Ohnaka led a band of Wiki pirates during the time of the Clone Wars. What else would you like to know?
Tell me about Chewbacca.
You asked me about Chewbacca. A legendary Wookiee warrior and Han Solo's co-pilot aboard the Millennium Falcon, Chewbacca was part of a core group of rebels who restored freedom to the galaxy. Known for his short temper and accuracy with a bowcaster, Chewie also has a big heart, and is unwavering in his loyalty to his friends. He has stuck with Han through years of turmoil that have changed both the galaxy and their lives. How else may I be of assistance?
Play the opening crawl from Return of the Jedi. I don't know if my camera's working here. It is not. Shoot. Okay. It's kind of loud. You can hear it, but you can see that we're playing the crawl right now. I have an Echo Show here in front of me. I'll turn the volume down for a second. I have an Echo Show here in front of me, and normally I have it on screen, but I have somehow screwed up the camera with that, so we'll fix that later. But it's playing the scrolling words that are coming by from Star Wars, from Return of the Jedi. And when it's done playing that, it will actually reprompt me and say, okay, now what should we do? Kind of like we've been doing the rest of the way. This was something that we were working on last week that I was really struggling with. And this is an easy way for me to introduce you to how this works, and I'll show you the code and stuff for that as well. So we're getting there. So it's still just playing. We're at the ... at the end of the crawl, so we're just waiting for that to finish, and then we will hear our lovely voice chime back in. And then I'll answer Karthik's question as well, because there's looks like Alexa has actually joined us, so I have a... Oh, I said her name. I can answer that question. So there we go. So it
What
just
else
ended.
can I provide information about?
Tell me about Jar Jar Binks.
You asked me about Jar Jar Binks. A clumsy, well-meaning Gungan outcast on Naboo, Jar Jar Binks struggled to prove his worth throughout his life. Putting his awkward past behind him, Jar Jar left the swamps of Naboo to enter the even murkier waters of Coruscant politics, becoming a representative for his people in the galactic capital. There, his best intentions and eagerness to serve were exploited
Alexa,
by scheming senators.
stop.
You stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder.
Okay, so there's a few things that I've added since the last time we got together. And so I want to talk about a few of those things. The first one, I'm going to jump over to this view, is that I changed the invocation name. I have been fighting with certification, and I can actually show you that as well. If we come into my certification here, you can see that I have been failing reviews since Valentine's Day, since February 14th. And I keep submitting and hoping to pass, and I just keep not succeeding for a number of reasons. Some were bugs, some were issues with how I was approaching specific problems. But the most recent failure was only because my invocation name, which you can see I have the name of my skill set to Star Wars Databank with the word unofficial in parentheses. And unfortunately, my invocation name, if we jump back to that, in my code was just Star Wars Databank. It was just this part. And for a variety of very obvious reasons, I am not allowed to do that. So I had to add the word unofficial, unfortunately, as much as I didn't want to, because there are a bunch of skills in the Alexa Skills Store that use the word Star Wars without saying anything like unofficial or unauthorized or anything like that. So in the unofficial case, I finally gave in because I really just want to get this skill live. But it hurts me to have to add the word unofficial to it. That being said, the first thing that I wanted to do with all of you is you can see that I have my skill ready for submission. I'm going to choose just certify. I'm not going to publish it automatically, but we're going to submit it for review. So we've done that live here on stream. Hopefully that will happen relatively quickly. It's certainly not going to be approved while we're here on the stream. It usually takes, at a minimum, I would say 12 to 18 hours, but in many cases it can take several days. So we'll see how long that takes us. But so that has been submitted, and then I'll walk you guys through some of the things that we have changed since we've gone through this process. So I want to answer some questions first. Alexa asked, I gotta stop saying that name. What else would you like to know? Why did George Lucas ruin Phantom Menace with Jar Jar Binks? I'm not sure that Jar Jar was the reason that Phantom Menace was ruined. I think that introducing a whole new generation to children to Star Wars by making a movie entirely about politics might have been more the problem. But in general, I am someone that loves Star Wars regardless of what it is, because Star Wars is great, and I really enjoy it no matter what. So even with Jar Jar, I mean, sure, Jar Jar's not my favorite character, but I don't hate him either. Karthik asks, in what order do I watch the entire series? If you haven't watched the Star Wars series before, my recommendation would be 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. But that's because I want you to see all of everything. There is, however, an order that a lot of people recommend, and I don't know if I like this or not because I can't go back and watch Star Wars for the first time, as much as that pains me to admit. And so it's referred to as the machete order, and this is the one that cuts episode 1 out entirely. And you do episodes 1, and I have to remember what the Star Wars machete order is. But it's an interesting way to think about watching the series this way. This is the machete order, is you watch 4 and 5, and then you watch 2 and 3, and then you watch 6. And so this is what they consider the machete order because it chops episode 1 out entirely. But you could also then add on 7, 8, and 9. And I think that there's a lot of fun and value in episode 1. I think it's very interesting to understand, where Anakin came from, and I don't know. I still think it's worthwhile to watch. But there are people that suggest that you could get away with not watching it, which may be true. Okay. The ability to show the crawl is cool, but will it read the crawl for those without a screen? Oxygen Box asks. And absolutely, that is something that the skill does. So let's open this one up, and we'll ask a non-screen device to play the crawl for us. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars databank.
Hello there. Ask me about anything in the Star Wars universe.
Play the opening crawl from Episode 6.
Luke Skywalker has returned to his home planet of Tatooine in an attempt to rescue his friend Han Solo from the clutches of the vile gangster Jabba the Hutt. Little does Luke know that the Galactic Empire has secretly begun construction on a new armored space station even more powerful than the first dreaded Death Star. When completed, this ultimate weapon will spell certain doom for the small band of rebels struggling to restore freedom to the galaxy. What else can I provide information about?
Stop.
Do or do not. There is no try.
All right. So that is how it works when I don't have a screen. So hopefully that answers the question for you there, Oxygen Box. But yes, I definitely do that. I have all the content. We should probably talk about content as well as we go through this. If we look at the content, I have it all living on a service called Airtable. And if I come into my data database, and we look at a table I have called media, you can see that in here I have a list of all of the media properties that I care about, right? Episode 1 through Episode 9, Rebels, Resistance, Rogue One, Solo, Mandalorian, Clone Wars, and Battlefront 2, which is a video game. And in here I have pronunciation for all of them, so I can say them appropriately. I have synonyms for them, so you can say things like Rise of Skywalker, or just Solo, or Solo a Star Wars story, or whatever name you have for the movie in your head. I have movie posters for all of them, but I'm not using them yet. I have videos on an S3 bucket for the trailers for all of those, and then I also have the opening crawl for those that have that, which is episodes 1 through 9. And then you can see that I also have the voice crawl and another field called clock crawl, which is something we're going to work on today. This is the actual text of the opening crawls for each of those movies. So I've saved those as text. And then I also know that what type they are, what year they were released, short descriptions of what each one of those things are. And then out here, this is a bunch of metadata for all of the character data, all the characters and droids and creatures and everything else that I have. This is metadata to show me what those things are tagged in. So I can see which species show up in which films and which properties and whatever. And so I don't have my data nearly completed, but I have a lot of it in there, so you can see a good representation. And so if I open up, for example, the characters from episode 4, if I blow this up, we can see this is a list of the characters that I have in my database that were in episode 4. And so this isn't all of them, obviously. This is just the ones that I actually have data for and that have been tagged. But you can see that this is kind of how my database works, is I have all those records tagged in there. So that's how I know how to read the opening crawls, because I have that text here in my voice crawl column. Okay, so Beauty Bubble mentions, how about for costumes or production design? I think there's a lot that was really good about episode 1. I don't think the costumes were bad. I think it was good. I don't know if you were complaining pro or con on that, but again, I'm not opposed to episode 1 at all. Jeff Nunn asks, now that the latest season of the Clone Wars is out, will you have to update my database? I most certainly will. I'll have to go through some of the online resources there are for characters and see what characters were added for the latest season of the Clone Wars. Hopefully there's not a ton of new characters, but I'm sure there will be some. So that's something I'm certainly going to have to do. But as you guys can see here, if I just go to my character table, you can see down here at the very bottom, I have 669 records now. That's how many characters I have. And so as we scroll through this, you can see there's every possible name of every character. And the ones that are filled in are probably ones you've heard of. I've done a lot of the easy ones. But I have to go through and fill in all of this for all of them. And there's, like, if you think of all the stormtroopers from Clone Wars, Commander Cody and all of those, right? I have all of those to list in here. I have Darth Vader and Darth Maul and Darth Bane and all this other stuff that I really need to go through. And then as you broaden, as you get into the TV shows, they've introduced so many characters. So this list just goes on and on and on, and I have to fill a lot of them out. You can see that for every one of them, I want to have an image. Right now, I have 17% of this list with an image. I have descriptions for 17%. This is an inverted percentage, but I have that same percentage filled in for descriptions. Lots and lots of work to do on data yet, but getting the skill published at least allows me to say, okay, I'm done coding. Now I can focus a lot of my time on data entry. So lots and lots of stuff there. Let's see. Is there any surefire way to know if you're on an Echo Show or a Fire Stick? The only way, Lord of Sound, that you can really tell, and I can show you this in my... we'll do it in the testing console. That's probably the easiest way, I think. So we'll go to this and view it. I think I can still do testing in here. Lots of new folks here. I'm really happy to see all of you. Thank you for joining. It's great to see. So let's do open unofficial Star Wars Databank.
Welcome to the Star Wars Databank.
And then I guess I can probably show you on this right here.
Places in the Star Wars universe, and even vehicles, weapons, or droids. What would you like to know about?
So the way that I generally know what kind of device I'm looking at, and I actually haven't tested this on any of the Fire TV devices, but I would expect it to work pretty well, is looking at some of the things that are here. So, for example, for the viewport, you can see that I have 1024 by 600. That is the specific dimensions of the Echo Show 5. That gives me a pretty good indication. Now, TVs can vary kind of wildly in their pixel density, but the number should be way bigger than this. And so if you think about what the Echo Show 8 and the Echo Show and the Echo Show 5, if you can find those dimensions, then you can pretty much say anything bigger than that is probably a Fire TV device, because there just isn't any other devices that would be that big. So no, there isn't a specific indication that says, hey, this is a Fire Stick or hey, this is a Fire Cube. But you can use these kinds of dimensions both here and in the viewport, which is here. These values should give you a very good indication of what kind of device you're looking at. And I don't have a... Is this one on? I do have a Fire TV Cube sitting here, but I don't have it plugged in. It's just there for decoration, unfortunately. I didn't have enough power. So Lord of Sound, I'm going to jump to the bottom here. I know there's other people I want to talk to yet, but Lord of Sound, they don't want to tell you the product name because we don't want people building skills for a specific device. You should be building this so that it works on any screen on any size, and this just gives you some indications about what that size is. But I think it would be bad if we were building skills for the Echo Show 8, and then some other third party builds a really cool Echo device that's more like an Echo Show 9, and then you just don't provide a good experience for them at all. So I think you're better off trying to work through the constraints that you have and using things like 100% width or 50% width to say, I want to just take up this much of the screen, and then building yourself some, if you think about like CSS, like some media query rules to be able to say, well, if the screen is this wide, then I want to do this. But if the screen's really small, then I want to do this. But I wouldn't limit it to device by device, because I think that you'll find yourself in a lot of trouble, and you'll be ruling out devices before you realize it. I know, Lord of Sound, I know you're fighting the idea of building a game that really only works on a screen device, but it's a tricky proposition. Karthik also mentions that the TV density will vary. On the TV, though, you have to do a bit more work so that selections are highlighted when you use a Fire TV remote or the likes. Yeah, there's a lot of things to consider when you start playing hard in the device screen space. I tend to try to keep it simple to give me some accentuating information, but I rarely will build stuff where like there's actual buttons to touch on the screen or things to interact with. It's just more like, hey, I want to show you some things, right? That's the point of the Echo Show, at least initially, was to show you more things. So I show you stuff, but I try to stay away from things that feel like a tablet experience, because there's other places for that. Okay, so, oh my gosh, Karthik had an opportunity when he was in school to be able to broadcast the entire episode 4 on the command line. Oh my goodness, that's hardcore stuff. That's really funny. I don't remember that, though. That sounds vaguely familiar. Let's see. All right, I think I've answered all the questions. So let's get into a few of the changes that I made. The first one I want to feature is that when I play a video with APL, I was able to get it to respond. Like there was two things that I really had to be very careful of, and these were lessons learned both by certification and by kind of playing. But I have in my code here. Let's see if we can find the crawl intent. That's one way to find it. So I have my crawl intent handler in here, and one of the things that I do is I have a couple of checks that I need to do. So the first thing is the user has indicated that they want the crawl for a specific media element. And so that's why I'm in the crawl intent, and I'm going to go grab the resolved words, the media element that they chose. So if they said Return of the Jedi or something like that, I still know that they mean episode 6. So I go out and I grab from my database that whole record that we looked at a second ago, which was the media elements, and I go grab the whole media record. Then the next thing that I do is I've built a simple function for myself that checks to see if the user's device supports video. And there's some easy ways to determine that, but if I go to my function here, maybe, go to definition, you can see here that I'm just checking to see if their viewport supports video. This is a simple property that I can just check inside their request envelope that allows me to do that. And then, let's see if I can get back there quickly. Once I've made that determination that they actually support video, then I can go ahead and start showing the video. If they don't have video, the next thing that I do, and this is something that we're going to work on today if we have time, is on a device like this, which is the Echo Dot with the clock on the front, I'm going to try and scroll the words of the opening crawl across the screen so that as it's talking, it's also scrolling the words by on the screen. But that's only for a very specific device. And again, you'll notice that I'm not checking for Echo Dot with clock. I'm just checking to see if it supports APLT, which is the text-based APL that we can use to scroll text. And then finally, if they don't have anything, this means they have no display capabilities. This is where I just make the speech, the voice crawl, which is what we heard a second ago. And so I just have Alexa read the thing. Finally, if they were somehow able to say, I want the opening crawl for, like, I don't know, Indiana Jones, I would say, I don't think that's the name of a movie from the Star Wars saga, or it's one of the television shows. And so this allows me to cop out and basically say, oh, like, there isn't an opening crawl for those things, so I can't read that for you. So when we get into actually playing the video, one of the things that I was doing was grabbing the crawl value, and if I did that, then if there isn't crawl data, then I know they asked for one of the TV shows again. Then I go ahead and I have this videoplayer.json file. This is the actual APL. This is the markup that I use to be able to refer to a specific video. And so in this video player file, there's not a lot here. It's pretty simple. I'm just showing a video in full screen. So you can see that I have a container, and inside that container there's a video, and that video is set to 100% on both dimensions. I have autoplay equal to true, so I don't have to wait for the user to play the video. I have a source URL, and I just have episode 1 listed in there, but I'll show you in my code how I actually change that. And then I have best fit, and this means that it will stretch it 100%, but it won't, it'll fit it to the screen, it won't expand it. You can also do best fill, and this will require it to fill the whole screen, but that means you might lose some of the top or the sides of your video depending on what size it is. So best fit allows it to fill the screen without expanding beyond the borders of the screen. And then this is the piece that I was missing here, is on end. This is a trigger that I can set up on my video itself. So this is actually on the video element. And I have a type called send event. And then I provide an argument for myself that's just video ended, but you could pass any value you want here. And then I also have this ID, but this is not used either. So the big thing is that I have a send event and I have an argument, that is video ended. That's the entirety of my file. There's not a lot else here. But when I get into my code, you can see that the first thing that I do is change that source to be the URL of my crawl video. And then I add this directive to my response builder. This is the thing that sends everything back to Alexa to let the user know what's going on. And so I provide the APL document and the data sources here. And then down here at the very bottom, I have rb.getResponse. This is my response builder where I'm actually sending it back. Now, the thing that I was doing initially is that I was including these two lines every time, the speak and the reprompt. And the trick here, the problem that this caused, is that it would start playing the video. I'm always worried I have devices unmuted. It starts playing the video, but it also talks to the user, and it'll say, all right, what else can I help you with? Because that's the speech that I wanted it to speak, but I wanted it to do that at the end. And so what I found is that I was able to remove these, the speak and the reprompt, when I send the APL document. And that just plays the video, and then when the trigger fires, it fires back to a new intent type, which I hadn't even seen before, which is this alexa.presentation.apl.user event. This comes back, and then I'm also checking to make sure my argument is video ended, which is the value that I sent through. That's just something I've made up for myself. And this is where I just grab an action query, which is something like, what else can I help you with? And it goes and it grabs an action query for me and says, what else can I help you with? Back to the user. And this gets fired up only when a video finishes playing. So I don't have to pass that as part of a payload. There's no way for me to send like, hey, say this text after the video. I just wait for the event to fire, and then I can catch it and do whatever I'd like with it. So that is the one thing that I've fixed, is that I'm not providing speak and reprompt when I pass the video, but in all other cases I am. And so if I've provided speak output, then I want to say it. But you'll see up here in my APL that I don't provide any speak output in my affirmative case here, right, where I'm actually creating the APL. I only do that in all the other cases. So I was able to say, if there's no speak output, then don't try to speak. And if there is speak output, then obviously we're not trying to show the video, so it works. So that is how I was able to get Alexa to speak to the user after a video has finished playing automatically. That was something that we fought with a little bit on Wednesday, I guess was the last time we were here. And I'm happy to say that we were able to figure that out. Another thing that I still really need to do is to externalize a lot of my data, but we'll focus on that in a little while also. So there's been a few more comments here. I want to make sure that we jump into these. I'm glad to hear that videotape is wonderful, Lord of Sound. That was something that took a little battling. I really had to work with the documentation, and that wasn't enough. I had to reach out to people internally to Amazon and be like, guys, what am I doing here? And they were able to quickly identify, like, oh, I had identified that on end was the thing I wanted, but I didn't understand how it worked, and I didn't understand the event that was being fired. And so I finally got all that stuff organized, and I actually wrote a blog post about this. I can share this with you as well. So if we come in here and we go to my website, blankenblog.com, I have an article that I just posted a couple days ago. I post about all sorts of things, so I was building a table over the weekend, but you can read about that if you want. But I wrote a post here called Tips and Tricks for Playing Video with APL and Alexa, and I will take this link. Welcome, Ice Cream. Nothing terribly exciting other than the blog post that I just posted, and we submitted the Star Wars skill for certification. So I'm optimistic that we'll get some news back later today, but this is an article I just wrote about showing how to identify when what video a user wants, how to play that video, and then how to respond to the user when the video is completed. So that is all there and available for people that would like to read it, and I provided the link in the chat. To list the available input methods in the way they list display capabilities. I agree with that, Lord of Sound. I think that input methods would be good so that you know like how they're interacting with the device. There's a bunch of stuff I'd love to see in the manifest, though. I know I've talked at length about knowing whether or not it's whisper mode, and also knowing whether or not what the user's wake word is, because that makes it very easy and clear for me to be able to tell the user how to use my skill. Okay, so we've gotten to a point now, let me get back to my code window, where the video is working and it's doing what it needed to do. Some of the other stuff that I really battled with in trying to get this certification done was related to my invocation name, and we talked a little bit about this earlier. I have, where did that go? NUS. Oh, it's jumping on the same file. That's inconvenient. So I had to make my invocation name unofficial Star Wars Databank. They were fighting me hard on the fact that I was using just Star Wars Databank as my name, which I understand. I don't like, but I understand. Um, and so that I finally conceded and went with unofficial Star Wars Databank as my name, which is a little long, but it works. And so we're I mean, like I said, we submitted right at the beginning of this session, and so hopefully we will see some certification by Wednesday. For Lord of Sound, if you're not familiar with Whisper Mode, and this is for everybody, this is a feature that you can use on at any part of Alexa, and I think this is why it didn't make its way into maybe it didn't make its way into developer stuff because it's just available on all things. But I'm going to turn my volume way up, and I'm going to whisper to my skill, and you'll see that it whispers back to me. The problem with this is that if you have any sound effects of any kind, the sound effects don't know to play in whisper mode, and so you end up with really loud situations. So I'm going to open my skill in whisper mode, and then I'm going to ask about Chewbacca in whisper mode, and you'll hear that the Chewbacca is still really loud. Alexa, open unofficial... Oh, no. Alexa, quit.
Welcome to Zork Dungeon,
Alexa,
a fan version of the...
quit. Maybe. Alexa, quit.
Let's play another game.
Alexa,
If you thought so...
open unofficial Star Wars Databank.
Let's play another game. If you thought Zork, unofficial fan version,
Alexa,
was fun...
stop.
You...
Okay. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars Databank.
Okay, here's unofficial Star Wars of the day. The Star Wars person of the day is called IG-88.
Alexa,
IG-88.
stop. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars Databank.
Hello there. I can answer your questions about people and places in the Star Wars universe,
Well?
and even vehicles, weapons, or droids. What would you like to know about?
Chewbacca.
You asked me about Chewbacca.
Well, that's a different behavior than I'm expected. Alexa,
A
stop.
legendary Wookiee warrior and Han Solo's co-pilot aboard the
Alexa,
Millennium Falcon. Chewbacca.
Stop.
Never tell me the odds.
All right. So I don't know why that didn't work exactly like I expected. It kept pushing my volume down, but I wanted to turn it up so you could hear the whispering. So I may have been interfering with the process, but the idea is that you could talk to your device at any time in a whisper, and it should whisper back. And if it's the first time you've done it, it'll say, "Oh, I hear you whispering to me. I've enabled whisper mode." But by default, I don't think it's turned on. But it'll do it automatically if you just whisper to your device. So let's see. I missed a bunch of conversation. Let's see. Karthik likes my blog post. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Sharing knowledge is something that I really think not enough people value. A lot of people might say, "Oh, well, if I figured this out, surely somebody else has already done that, or somebody else has already written an article on it." But man, every time I discover something, I find that when I write a blog post that should be something people understand or should be easy to find elsewhere, or maybe officially through Amazon or whatever, people really tend to gravitate towards a simple solution to the problem they're looking for. And so this is more an endorsement for all of you. When you're building stuff, when you do something interesting or you solve a problem that you've been fighting with, somebody else has those problems too, write it down, start a blog, post it on Medium, do it somewhere. But I think you'll find that a lot of people will really gravitate towards that because they'll be looking for a solution that's the way you did it, not the way that someone else has already written it. Honestly, all of us should be writing more because it really helps you. I said this at the beginning of the post, but it helps you understand the content much better. If you have to teach it to someone else, then you know it. You can't teach something you don't know. And so being able to really dive in and explain what you did and why you did it goes a long way in explaining it to yourself, but also helps other people along the way. So I can't endorse enough. When you do something interesting, write it down and share it with the world. Okay. All right, I think I'm all caught up. So the thing that I really wanted to focus on, I don't know why I want to focus on it, but it just seems kind of cool, is to jump back into my code here, and we're going to go to the crawl intent handler, and we're going to focus on getting this second case, the APLT case, to actually work, because I don't think it does right now, and we're going to try this again. So let's try that one more time just to see if it actually did anything, because I don't think that it did. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars databank.
Hello. I was expecting
Alexa,
someone with your...
give me the opening crawl for episode 1.
Turmoil has engulfed the Galactic Republic. The taxation of trade routes to outlying star systems is in dispute. Hoping to resolve the matter with a blockade of deadly battleships, the greedy Trade Federation has stopped all shipping to the small planet of Naboo. While the Congress of the Republic endlessly debates this alarming chain of events, the Supreme Chancellor has secretly dispatched 2 Jedi Knights, the guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy, to settle the conflict. How else may I be of assistance?
Stop.
Do. Or do not. There is no try.
Okay, so I didn't see any content change on the front of that clock, even though I do believe that I'm sending this thing in. So the first thing that I want to do is check my logs, and let's see what's actually going on and if I'm actually hitting the right place in my code. That's always an important first stop. I do a lot of logging in my code, and so it's very easy for me to see whether or not I'm actually hitting the code blocks and the things that I'm expecting. So while that's loading here, let's look at this. And you can see right here that I have console log using echo dot with clock. This is where I'm able to quickly determine whether or not I'm actually in this chunk of code. So let's take a look at the most recent call. And if we scroll to the bottom here, you can see that I am using echo dot with clock. That's good. And then my response builder in here is actually passing this data through. So there's something about what I'm passing it that is incorrect, and we need to figure out what that is. And I don't know what I can do, so we're gonna do this the traditional way, which is we're gonna do some searching. So let's do Alexa APLT example. Is there a GitHub? Yeah. So I have this here. Let's go to the actual... They just want an APLT example? It's kind of old. Okay. Getting into some more vague things. So I guess I'll just go to the docs and we'll look there. So I see something like this and I think, oh man, this should be pretty easy. That's not what I want. This looks pretty good though, right? So this is my document. This looks a lot like what I have, right? I have alexa.presentation.aplt.render document. So if I look at this, aplt.render document. So I think this is the thing that I want. So let's just take the one they have here, because this should work, right? I mean, I'm taking it right out of our tech docs. Copy that and come back to my code. And we'll take this this chunk here and just comment it out for right now. And that's going to be through here. Okay, so I just have that chunk there, and then the thing that I want to do is rb.add, get out of the way, add directive, and this is where I will paste that thing, and this should say good day. That's the text that I'm expecting, and that looks like this one, right? Main template, item, that's interesting. This example is main template item, and I have main template items. So I guess I could have multiple items, but Maybe not. Let's see if maybe this fixes my issue. So I'll put a semicolon on the end. We're going to take the voice crawl because it'll speak it also. Let's just run this and see what we get. Did a lot of weird stuff over the weekend apparently. That works. Yeah, my meme game is on point for sure, Karthik. I don't mess around, man. Thank you for recognizing my game. All right, so waiting for that to load. All right, let's give this another try. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars databank.
Hello.
Alexa, play the opening crawl from episode 3.
War. The Republic is crumbling under attacks by the ruthless Sith Lord, Count Dooku. There are heroes on both sides.
That doesn't seem
Evil is everywhere. In a stunning move, the fiendish droid leader, General Grievous, has swept into the Republic capital and kidnapped Chancellor Palpatine, leader of the Galactic Senate. As the separatist droid army attempts to flee the besieged capital with their valuable hostage, 2 Jedi Knights lead a desperate mission to rescue the captive Chancellor. What else would you like to know?
Stop.
You stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder.
All right, so that didn't work. I'm going to grab my chair since we're getting a little deep into this. What could possibly be wrong with this, since it is when I send in regular stuff, I add a directive, and I have a document node and a data sources node, and it's a render document. And I'm sending a render document here, but it's APLT. And I have this token, which I probably don't need, so we'll just get rid of that. And target profile, I don't know why I would need that, but maybe we should look and see what that is. Although I would think, let's see if we have target profile. Since this is currently always 4-character clock, you can leave this property not set. All right, guess what I'm getting rid of? We're going to chop this away as much as we can. Then I have document. Then I have data sources. What am I doing up here? I create an object called APL. I kind of like this mechanism better. So we're going to try this. So we're going to do an add directive statement, but instead we're going to do like this. Type. No, I don't need all that. We're going to do this where we get rid of this and this. And these can be backed into a little bit. And we have a type. I don't think I need a token. Version is still 1.0, that's fine. And then I'm going to have this APL document and data sources, which is fine. And then I'm going to take my I'm going to create a new document in here that is not that. I need to copy and paste again. So it would be this one? Yeah, this is what I copied. So we'll take this and we'll drop it into like so. We'll save this as crawl, I guess we'll call it crawl dot JSON. This is going to go in the APL folder. Save. Okay, so we have our little JSON file here. This should look a lot like my video player one, where I have a document and I have a data sources all in the same document. All of that looks good. So my crawl.json looks great. And now I'm going to get rid of all this stuff. Just trying to clean up some code. And then I'm going to need a closing bracket, closing parenthesis, semicolon. And then the other line that I had up here was setting up APL to be to grab that document like that, and this is going to be crawl. Okay, so now I'm doing this the way that I'm doing everything else. I don't know that this is right, but I'm doing it the way that I think I should do it. And so I have this add directive statement. I have the type, oh, this needs to be APLT. I have a version, I have a document, and I have data sources, and all of that is there. And great. I will eventually, let's make sure we don't lose this. This is the reference to the actual text that I need. So we'll need to at some point bring that in and do what I'm doing here, where I refer to a specific element inside the JSON, but I'm not worried about that yet. Right now I just want to see some text. So if supports APLT, then do this thing and still give the speak output. All right, let's give this a run. This is a good testing point. And hopefully we can actually get this to work here. It's always exciting when it works, and I'm 99% sure this is not going to work. All I've done is move data around. I haven't changed anything, so I would expect it to still not work. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars Databank.
Welcome. I can answer your questions about
Alexa,
people and place.
Play the opening crawl for Episode 7.
Luke Skywalker has vanished. In his absence, the sinister First Order has risen from the ashes of the Empire and will not rest until Skywalker, the last Jedi, has been destroyed. With the support of the Republic, General Leia Organa leads a brave resistance. She is desperate to find her brother Luke and gain his help in restoring peace and justice to the galaxy. Leia has sent her most daring pilot on a secret mission to Jakku, where an old ally has discovered a clue to Luke's whereabouts. Is there something else you would like to know?
Alexa, stop. So I don't love, if you guys have noticed as we do this, it speaks the whole thing. The clock stays on the whole time, and then right at the end, the clock blinks, and I don't think that's normal. I don't think that's normal. So I feel like it's trying to reset itself, like, oh, I've received a statement, but it's not doing what I want it to do. This may be one of those ones that I have to give up on stream and go yell at people until I get the answer I want. Because I don't know what else I can change. I mean, I'm sending in a well-formed document. If we look at my logs, we'll go back and look at those and see what happened at 10:46, which is now. You can see that in here I have using echo dot with clock. And then the response builder is sending out that APLT where it should say good day with marquee. All of that is exactly what I want to have happen. Alexa, APLT, marquee. Here, this is what I'm looking for. This looks exactly like mine. Where can I just get to the... Feature demos, APL, APLT text, Lambda, APLT document. Man, we're getting into some deep GitHub world now. So I could try using his. Actually, his doesn't have the type in there. That's interesting. He also doesn't have, this must just be the document. That makes sense, since that's what the name of the file is. So if we look at his index, he has type token version document. He's just requiring it right in there. So did he have In his document, was he referring to a data? I think he was referring to a data source location. We could do that. That doesn't really seem necessary for what I'm doing, but why couldn't I just put the value right in there? Do I have the milliseconds per character? I didn't. I don't think I had that. I didn't. He has that. Is that the difference? If I look here, he has milliseconds per character, 800 milliseconds. That could, I guess that could do it. I don't know. I also have text-align right. I don't know things, guys. He does have text-align right as well. He has overflow marquee. All the rest of that looks pretty similar. Parameters. I don't have any parameters, but that's because he has the data source payload that I don't have. Karthik asks the on-mount component. I can't imagine that's important because he doesn't even have it filled in. But maybe. He also has a type here that I don't think I have. Oh, I do have that here. So we can do this. What else could I try and change? Well, let's try that milliseconds per character. That seems like something that might actually have a difference. I would imagine there is a list of the APL variants. Probably, if I go back to APL reference. You would think that there would be an example of that lore to sound. I don't see it in the obvious place, but that doesn't mean that it's not here if I get into like type, which they haven't even defined. All right, well let's see what my code is doing now, and then we'll come back to this. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars databank. Alexa,
Welcome to the...
play the opening crawl from episode 9.
The dead speak. The galaxy has heard a mysterious broadcast.
Alexa,
a threat
stop.
of Go? I must. Before bitter and twisted I become.
Okay, so still not working. I don't know what else I can do here. We have this very, very simple cookbook item. I could try and just use theirs exactly and see if that doesn't fix it. Let's try that. So he has his document. So we'll create a new thing that's just this. We'll save it as APL document.json. And then I will also have, if I go back, he has in his index, he has return just like this. So we'll use the same thing just to try and figure out what we might be doing wrong. I can copy this again if I need it, so I'll just delete it. And I'm going to do exactly what's here. So this should refer to APL slash APL, I called it APL document .json. And then I have my data source listed here. And then my get response. So all of this stuff won't even happen, which is okay. That's fine for what I'm doing right here. I'm going to need something here. This is hopefully working. Okay. Nope. Get rid of that semicolon that I thought I needed. Okay. So if this doesn't work, then our GitHub sample doesn't work. And that's a bigger problem. So we'll see what happens here and see if we can't solve some problems. I think you're probably right. Does he do that in his? I didn't see a token. Thank you for catching that before I embarrassed myself with errors. Alright, so we'll just drop that right here. And then we'll try one more time. Good catch. Thank you, Karthik. For those of you that don't know Karthik, he's new to my broadcast here, but he's on the Alexa team, but he lives in India, where I just was, and he was responsible for helping put together the Alexa Community Day that I was there for. So he's the Alexa evangelist in India, and is absolutely someone you guys should get to know. He's also just started streaming on Twitch. I think he did his first stream last Friday, but it's very interesting to see everybody's unique perspectives on how to build things and how to play with stuff. So he'd be a great person to follow if you guys aren't already doing it. P. Karthik R would be a good place for you guys to take a look. All right, let's try this one more time. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars Databank. Did I see that John G is here? Oh my gosh, he is.
Hello. I was expecting
Alexa,
someone with your...
play the opening crawl from episode 7.
This is hopefully working.
That worked, everybody. I don't know why it worked, but it worked. Okay, so what that means is we can do... I can do rb.addDirective here. Not capital. Add directive. No, I don't even need that. I need rb to be here. rb.addDirective, that puts that stuff in there. I don't want to get response. I just want a semicolon. And that should allow me to be able to get the marquee text to work. And so then we'll come down here, we'll have my speak output, and then I'll return everything. So I haven't really changed anything, so this should still work. If it doesn't work, you're going to see me get really angry, because there's no reason this shouldn't work. Thank you for joining, John, Bond.fm. It's good to see you. I know this is a nice early morning for you, but we're before 8 a.m. yet. That's pretty impressive for you to be on Twitch. Thank you for joining me here. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars Databank.
Hello.
Alexa,
I was expecting...
play the opening crawl for episode 8.
The First Order reigns. Having decimated the peaceful Republic,
What?
Supreme Leader Snoke now deploys the merciless legions to seize military control of the galaxy. Only General Leia Organa's band of resistance
Alexa,
fighters... Go? I must. Before bitter and twisted I become.
All right. So now I'm angry because there's no reason for that at all. I'm going to back up to where we were and figure out what in the world could possibly be different. So I just have a reference to handler input.response builder here, which is RB. And then here, I was just going to do RB, which is this thing, handler input.response builder, where I add a directive to it. Well, I don't even, Karthik, that's a good question, but I don't even care about the crawl stuff right now. I just wanted it to work with my formatting, because I can't return my statement here. I have other things that I need to do that are outside of this if statement. So all I wanted to do was build to the object. Okay, let's try this. If I just back this off and get rid of the get response, does that work? Oh, I don't really want this either. So we should be able to take mediafields.clockcrawl, put it here. I don't want to do that just yet, but man. No, I don't think I'm going to have any errors, but that's a good question. That's a good thing to check. If I go to my error table. For those of you who haven't seen this, I built a simple like error logger for myself. No. In fact, I've cleaned them all out. I also added a couple columns for myself. One that is the JSON request so that I can see what error caused it. So that's another thing that I've added to this error table. And then I also can check a box that says I fixed it. So as I'm debugging, I don't have to look at it and be like, why are there 10 errors here? So I can just mark them as fixed if I fix them. But so there's no errors. That's good. I think I made some changes after I published. So let me try this one more time. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the real-time update. But I'm also a big fan of not having errors. I'd love to keep that table clean. All right, so we'll get this pushed one more time. Let's see if this works. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars databank. Alexa, open the opening crawl for episode 7.
Luke Skywalker has vanished.
Alexa, stop.
It's a trap.
Okay, so what we're finding is that this does work. And I don't know why there's a difference. So let's go look at my log and see what actually was sent in. Because that certainly seems like the right thing. I'm sending it all in, and it's definitely being sent. There's my output speech, my reprompt. I don't get it. It's all there, but it seems to want me to... What? It seems like if I don't send this at the same time that I'm adding the directive, it doesn't work. Because like I do this kind of stuff all the time. rb.addDirective. And then later I send the thing. And this works fine. This is me playing the video. I don't know what the speech is yet. That's the problem. Or do I? Maybe I do and I could just do that before. If I do this... Yeah, I mean, this is gross, but I'll do it. Okay. So the thing that I'm finding is that this works as expected, right? So let's live in that world. So I'm gonna have this here where speak output equals the voice crawl plus an action query at the end. And so instead of this speak, I'm just gonna say speak output. And then I'll also have dot reprompt. And in here, I'm just going to take the action query. Again, these are my own terms that I've made up. So if you guys don't know what an action query is, it's if you look at my data for my speech, maybe, come on. If I come to my speech table and we look at my action queries, there are things like, how else can I be of assistance? Or what else can I help you about, right? It's the thing at the end that I want to hit them with that's like, give me, what else you want to do? Well, let's do something else. Those are my action queries. And so what I do here is this is the voice crawl, and then I tack an action query on the end. But when I reprompt them, I don't want to read the whole thing again, so I just give them the action query. So if they don't respond, we use that. So this will be, I mean, this is fine. This doesn't affect my code any, and it'll work. So let's do this with the good day and see if this thing works. And then if it does, then we'll swap out for the actual text of the crawl. And that may not work because I'll be providing the wrong kinds of characters. There's a limited character set you can use for APLT screens. And so then I need to go into my data and change how that reads. So let's make sure this works first. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars Databank.
Welcome to the Star Wars
Alexa,
Databank.
Play the opening crawl for Episode 2.
There is unrest in the Galactic Senate. Several thousand solar systems have declared their intentions to leave the Republic. This separatist movement, under the leadership of the mysterious Count Dooku, has made it difficult for the limited number of Jedi Knights to maintain peace and order in the galaxy.
What is happening?
Senator Amidala, the former Queen of Naboo, is returning to the Galactic Senate to vote on the critical issue of creating an army of the Republic to assist the overwhelmed Jedi. How else may I be of assistance? How else may I be of assistance?
Stop. Well, that's interesting. So the thing that I saw there was that it waited until the speaking was done until it did the APL stuff. That makes no sense to me. So let's do this. We're going to change our speak output to nothing. And let's actually try to get this going in here as well. So if I just take this, swap it out for that. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars Databank.
Hello.
Alexa, play the opening crawl for Episode 4.
What else can I provide information about?
Stop.
Go. I must. Before bitter and twisted I become.
So it looks to me like speaking happens first, scrolling happens second. I don't know why. I would want them to happen at the same time. But I've got it working. Now the trick is I need to go to my data because I'm betting that I passed in, if we come back here, I'm betting that I passed in the whole thing that I needed. It is a period of civil war, rebel spaceships striking from a thing. But there's one more catch to this, which is I think there's a limit on the number of characters. And that could also be blowing me up. So let's see if I can go back to where I was in the docs when it was APLT. We can say... See, if I'd read this note, I would know that. When your response includes both normal output speech and the render document directive, Alexa speaks the entire speech before displaying the document. That is very unfortunate, but it is documented, so I have to give them that point. Type, I want none of that. There's got to be a thing in here that is like... All right. How am I ever going to know the answer to this question? The thing I'm worried about is that I'm just passing it too much text. And so... Because it showed the first word, it. But then it didn't do anything else after that. Let's do a search. Alexa, APLT, marquee, character, limit. This is going to be important in a second. You're not going to let me copy that? Oh, come on. I don't see anything in here about a limit on the number of characters. Which is good, I guess. This document uses the pager component to display two separate strings. Since these strings are longer than many displays, the marquee option on the overflow property tells the auto page command defined on mount tells the device to automatically advance through the pages after displaying the document. Okay, so maybe it's just my characters. If we go back to here where they were mentioning the actual alphabet, let's do this in one half and bring this to another half, and then go to my data for media, look at we'll look at this one specifically. So this said it can only do a capital I, so you can do a capital S, so it, lowercase t, yeah, it, that's why that worked. And then I have to do it is capitals, A, capital P, capital E, lowercase r, capital I, lowercase o, lowercase d, lowercase o, lowercase f, no, of C, capital I, no V's at all. I guess I'll do how do you do that then? Civil, I could do a U, I guess. Civil, capital L, no W. Man, that's a big one. How do you do that? I don't think I have a solution for how to do a W. And the V is already kind of wasted. Maybe this is not such a clever idea, since I can't use the whole alphabet. I mean, it makes sense based on the type of display. I'm not complaining about that. I just would really like to do this, and I don't think I can. So let's just chop this out. I'm gonna just do this part. We'll get rid of the rest for now, and see if I can get that much to show up. And then I know it's just the language. I still, even though I think I'm about to give up on this feature, I just want to make sure that it all works. So if we come back here, see what you guys are saying, if anything. Nope. So all I've done is update the content, so I shouldn't even need to change anything. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars Databank.
Hello.
Alexa, play the opening crawl for episode 4.
How else may I be of assistance?
Well, that did do what I wanted it to do. There's another thing I'd like to do, since we're in our APL document. We had this 800 milliseconds. What if I do like 100 milliseconds? Will that make it faster? I would hope so, right? I'm sure there's a minimum amount of speed it can handle. We'll see. I would hope that if I dip below the minimum speed that it just does the minimum speed and doesn't throw an error, but we'll find out. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars Databank.
Hello there. Ask me about anything in the Star Wars universe.
Alexa, play the opening crawl for episode 4.
What else would you like to know?
All right.
I didn't find a match for all right, but you can ask about a character, or a species,
Alexa,
or a...
stop.
Go? I must. Before bitter and twisted I become.
So it seems to me that we're on the right path. I unfortunately need to use characters that don't exist for that alphabet. And I can't do graphics or anything. This is most certainly, John, this is Bondad FM. This most certainly is not a case that they anticipated. I am a maker of nonsense, and I'm very good at coming up with use cases that are not what technology was meant for. This is a very common theme in my entire life. And so, yeah, I'm the breaker of things. I even say that right at the top of my Twitter page. I fully acknowledge that if you look at my Twitter bio right here, I build stuff, I break stuff, I talk about it. This is a pretty good description of me. So, all right. So we're not going to be able to do this exactly the way I wanted to. So it seems like for now what I should do is go into my code and I should just comment out this whole thing. I can take out this chunk. This isn't useful anymore. Stop it. because I now have working code. What I don't have is the speech that that I really want to use. There's one other thing I want to check here, which is if I go to this one, can I do EPISODE, and I can do any numbers. I wonder if instead of the actual speech, I could at least show the name of the movie. So instead of clock crawl, we could do, let's do this. EPISODE. No, the D has to be lowercase. I think all the others can be EPIS, capital O, lowercase d, capital E, episode 4. New, I can't do a W. Alright, so let's just take these. Just to do something fun, right? This makes me feel at least like I'm using their screen. I'm acknowledging it a little bit. Oh. Control Z that. Episode 6. Episode 5. Don't need to edit that one, Jeff. 1. Okay, episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So again, this is just a data change. Oh no, I did make some code change. Because it's still going to be the clock crawl field, but now I don't have that data in there. I don't need this anymore. And then I still need to speak it. So in here I need to say speak output. And then this will just be a nice little surprise for those that have an Echo Dot with clock. They'll get to hear it as they expect, but at the very end then it'll scroll by the name of the movie that they asked for, which is something, I guess. There's probably better things I could do here, but this is a good temporary solution. Yeah, I'm a limit pusher for sure, John. Okay, come on. Okay, Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars Databank. Alexa,
Hello.
play the opening crawl for episode 7.
Luke Skywalker has vanished. In his absence, the sinister First Order has risen from the ashes of the Empire and will not rest until Skywalker, the last Jedi, has been destroyed. With the support of the Republic, General Leia Organa leads a brave resistance. She is desperate to find her brother Luke and gain his help in restoring peace and justice to the galaxy. Leia has sent her most daring pilot on a secret mission to Jakku, where an old ally has discovered a clue to Luke's whereabouts. What else can I provide information about? What else can I provide information about?
Stop.
May the Force be with you, always.
I like how he says that with a slightly questioning voice. Ice Cream, you are a really smart person. You're right. I think that if I did scroll it that fast, maybe I could pack an L and a U together to get a W. It still doesn't solve my V problem, but something to think about. Yeah, 2 U's next to each other might also potentially work. I mean, it's a pretty standard, if we look at the display here, it's your pretty standard 7-part display. So it doesn't have the diagonals like you might see on some fancy alarm clocks. So you have, the O is a good representation, and then you have the center, which is the 3. So those are all the characters that you can actually make. I guess that's called a 7-segment clock display. But yeah, so you have those 7 segments, and there's no real good way to do a where's the numbers and many letters piece here? So the lowercase u must be just the bottom half of the 0. The capital U would be the 0 without a top. a Y is probably very similar to a 4, but then with the bottom of the 0 on it also. There's no good V, because it would be a U. I think that I could do a capital W with L, capital L, capital U, but it still feels wonky. And I mean, I could use U's for V's and maybe it would work. Oh, that's something I can play with, because the nice thing is it's not code dependent, but I at least have the display working now, and I've slowed down the scroll a little bit. So I could experiment with that later, but I don't know what other kind of characters I'm going to run into. I mean, there's a lot of the alphabet missing there, right? I don't have X's, I don't have Z's. I don't know if I'll need them. I don't have M's, so I'd have to do 2 N's next to each other. And that would look kind of weird. I don't know. It's okay, we're talking about a very nuanced set of users. So it's not something I should really be spending a ton of time on. Yes, it does look like someone needs to create a text-to-crawl text library. That would be awesome. But I think for now, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Because again, we're talking about people that have Alexa, people that have an Echo, people that have an Echo.
You have an arcade day enabled.
Alexa,
Do you want...
quit. The number of people with an Echo Dot with clock that happen to be using my skill seems like it would be really low. Can I use slashes? Did it say I could use slashes? No. It only supports the following characters. There are no slashes. So I can use an underscore and I can use a space. But that still doesn't really get me where I need to be. And I think it's okay. I love that you guys are all trying to solve this problem, but I think doing a full alphabet probably wouldn't work, because we don't have slashes. But I think if we did have slashes, that would mean we could do V's. I love where your head's at, though, man. All right. So that's a little disappointing, but we have working code now, at least. At least the display works. What else did I want to do? I think that's it. I'm actually going to be starting on a new project. I mean, I'll still work on this from time to time, but I have a new project that's starting hopefully Wednesday, where I'm going to be building some. This is kind of a larger scale skill, but I have some ideas for some small scale skills. That's hard to say. That I'm hoping to start on Wednesday. One would be like the ability to check your blood pressure. So people that care about their blood pressure, I'm fortunately not one of them, but my wife is. And to be able to keep track of your blood pressure, this is something that you will check a couple times a couple times a day. That's funny, Lord of Sound. Like a working fusion reactor would be easier than working on APLT crawl text. But for those people that want to monitor their blood pressure, it would be nice to be able to just tell Alexa, like, hey, record my blood pressure. It's this, 120 over 80, or it's 160 over 95, or whatever. And then you could also say, like, what's my blood pressure been like this week, or whatever. So pretty simple, basic data entry kind of stuff, but I think it translates to a lot of different kinds of skills. Another example of that might be, boy, I'm yawning today, being able to monitor your anxiety level. So coming up with I'm sure there's an official scale, but using some kind of official scale. Another thing that I built a long time ago, I built it for Windows Phone, I built it for iPhone, was an app that I called Where Did I Go? And the point of it really was to keep track, because I travel a lot, was to keep track of all the places you've ever gone to the bathroom, which I know is kind of gross, but it was kind of a neat idea, like an interesting data point to track for myself. And so I built a Windows Phone app and an iPhone app, which both are no longer running. But in doing that, I learned a whole bunch of stuff about the scales and the ways that actual patients that need to monitor this stuff actually keep track of like the color of their output. I don't want to get too gross here, but like when you have to go to the restroom, being able to track colors and density, for lack of a better term, there's a lot of that kind of stuff that there's a lot of patients that really need to pay close attention to that, as well as like colors and things like that. So I built an app that did all of those things, and not realizing that I thought I was building something fun to keep track of bathrooms I used, but it actually ended up being something that a lot of patients with specific medical conditions really cared about and were able to use pretty effectively. So, excuse me, for something that's voice activated, you could do the same thing. The thing that I wouldn't have is your location data. It would primarily just be keeping track of that stuff when you're in your home. But I'm looking at something like that for tracking blood pressure and anxiety levels and other stuff, because I'm looking at working on putting together a course for some high school students in April, and I think that those might be some good introductory skills that I could have them build while they're there. Right, same idea over and over and over. You just change the text to say, all right, what is your blood pressure, and then you collect that data, or it could be stress level, or it could be how many Skittles you ate today, or whatever, right? It's the same data model, same structure, same everything. It's just what kind of input am I expecting from the user. So that is that is something I'm expecting to work on starting Wednesday, if I get all my ideas together. But if not, we'll come back and we'll revisit some more stuff on here, because one of the other things that I really need to do is, you'll see that in my code I still have a lot of text. Like, unfortunately, there's only opening crawls. Every bit of text that you see in my code needs to come out, because if I ever want to internationalize this and provide it in additional languages, which I may lean on some of you for, it would be very easy for me to do with my data, but the thing that I need is for all of these strings to be externalized. So it doesn't speak English sometimes, and Spanish or French or Hindi or whatever another time. So that's something else that I need to focus on. But right now, my focus is on getting this thing certified. So I made one final change. I should make sure it still works so they don't decertify me. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars Databank.
Hello there.
Tell me, Alexa.
What would you like?
Tell me about Chewbacca.
You asked me about Chewbacca.
Alexa, quit. But at this point, all I want to do is get this thing live and pushed out and get some users behind it, and then I can focus on things like a quiz that I started building and some other stuff. Bondat, I totally agree. It's really interesting to think about what are the utterances and slots, but not have to focus so much on the coding, because they're not necessarily going to know how to write all the logic and everything, but the logic would be the same. It's just thinking about the voice model stuff. That's kind of my goal, is to let them focus more on the design of voice than like I'm not gonna in 2 days teach them how to write JavaScript, right? So if that stuff is there and working and they can just copy and paste it in, they may have to change some things depending on what their slots and synonyms become, but in general it should be pretty easy to manage. Okay, so it's 11:30. I have another call that starts right at noon today, so I'm going to wrap up a little bit early. But I think this has been, we had some really good conversation with all of you, so I'm hoping that you guys enjoy this as much as I did. I got to learn how to work APLT. I don't really know what I did right. It's still not super clear to me. If we look at wherever my crawl thing is, I don't know why this one works and mine doesn't work. But I'm going to ask some people and we're going to figure it out, because it just doesn't make any sense to me. I shouldn't have to return my response builder at the same time that I put all this stuff together. It's okay that I am. There are times where I would want to break this stuff out. So that's something to figure out. All right, so I'm going to break a little early. I'm going to grab some lunch, and then I'm going to get on to the rest of my day and meetings. But this was super awesome. I'm so glad we had a bunch of new people join us, like John G. and Karthik and a few other people. So thank you guys all for coming. This is always such a pleasure for me, and it's flattering to have people show up and want to watch me talk and code and do all this stuff. So please come back. I really enjoy the company, and it makes everything work a lot better for me. So with that, I'm going to sign off. I'll be back here Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern. And hopefully I'll see you guys all again soon.